What is up, you bunch of Wesker children? I'm System Check 66, and we had a surprise full trailer for Resident Evil Requiem drop last night. And I got home from work, and it was a bit of a surprise, a bit of a shock. So, you know, I did what I normally do, which is upload it so you guys can watch it if you're not aware of it. I'm sure a lot of you are, and we're going to get into it. So, no particular order, and it's sort of how I grabbed the screenshots. We're gonna start with this young girl that I'm thinking is shown during a flashback sequence, and it's interesting because she seems like she's blind. Her eyes are completely white. She has bleach blonde hair, so it's up in the air as to whether this is actually like maybe a younger Grace, something like that, or her hair could be grey. I'm not too sure. I think it's bleach blonde, but it's interesting because like they say that Grace is the key to something, and we see this one child on her own, you know, on this bed in this completely just sterile room. And Gideon said that Grace is the key, right? And so my mind's starting to race and go, is this not a younger Grace? Is she not a bioweapon? You know, maybe I've been wrong. Blood is her, right? Or it incorporates her. And whereas before I said that maybe she has the daylight virus in her blood, maybe that's not it. Maybe she's actually a bioweapon and she can end up destroying the world, you know, with whatever virus is running through her blood. Having said that, we'll talk about an image that's going to come up a bit later. So I don't think this is Grace. Is it a clone of Grace? Maybe using her blood? Who knows at this point? Obviously the trailer doesn't tell us this stuff. It doesn't go into details. But very interesting. Clearly this girl is some sort of bioweapon. In my opinion, there's something about her, 100%. You know, the way that everything's framed, it's shot, the fact that they show you her. There has to be some significance, definitely, and quite a big significance within the story. So moving on, the next screenshot is Leon in the city streets. I'm guessing this is Rhodes Hill, and there's just an outbreak that's occurred, you know, and everything's going to shit. And the way that it showcases this is amazing. Like, it looked great, it looked incredible. People were getting bitten by zombies left, right, and centre. Leon has to sort of distinguish between the targets, you know, while taking out the zombies, trying to save sort of people like pedestrians, bystanders. And yeah, it's just a great kind of use of chaotic action, essentially. Like, I don't think that this is the unnamed town where the Renwood Hotel is featured. I think this is, you know, Rhodes Hill, where the chronic care facility is, and it's just outside of Raccoon City. It seems it's situated just outside of Raccoon City. If you go on the wiki, it does say that it was affected by the T virus, but obviously the nuclear blast didn't really affect it too heavily. The thermobaric bomb. So this is cool. It shows that Rhodes Hill couldn't escape Umbrella's bullshit, basically, and yeah, we've had an outbreak. So the next screenshot is Leon facing off against a construction worker zombie, and he's carrying a pipe. He tries to hit Leon. Leon deflects it and ends up burying his axe in the zombie's head, so taking him out, killing him. But if the theories are to be believed, where the zombies in Resident Evil have always just been mutating, but on the inside they're still like conscious of what's going on and what they're doing, then that's pretty fucked up. It means that Leon's kill count and the zombies he's killed up until now, including the ones in this game, could have maybe been saved, and the mutations could have been reversed. A bit like sort of Vendetta, and what they did with Vendetta, where the people that turned into zombies were able, the infection was able to be reversed, and they could, you know, become human again. Now the next scene has me thinking maybe this is the young girl, and maybe I'm just completely wrong, because we get to see sort of that grey kind of bleach blonde hair, and obviously Grace is in front of her talking to her, but I still think that this little girl has some significance to the plot. I'm thinking just the way that they've shown her during the trailer and made it a point to show her, and the fact that she's blind and stuff like that, and she just sort of screams bioweapon to me. You know, I got a very Evelyn vibe from her, let's just say that. So yeah, but maybe this is the little girl that you have to guide and help whilst you're in the chronic care facility. So the next screenshot is of someone on like a hospital bed, and it's just like a room within the chronic care facility, but when I zoom into it, it looks like the person has, like, I don't know, it looks like he's got duct tape wrapped around his whole head, you know, covering his face and that, and maybe this is like a callback to Dr. Salvador, or you know, a chainsaw type enemy. So that's interesting. I know that zombies can pick up chainsaws and just normal zombies, they're more advanced, but in this game, but yeah, like, you know what I mean. We're gonna get like a callback to Dr. Salvador and those kind of bag-headed enemies that we've faced off in previous games. So yeah, it's interesting, and I think the reason why they're showing this particular, I'm guessing, enemy at this point, is to show you, yeah, like, this dude's gonna get up and he's gonna go for you, he's gonna attack you. So the next screenshot is we get to see a Blister Head. So I'm a little bit disappointed that they showed this, just because, yeah, they kind of ruined it. I was looking forward to, they kept it kind of secret for so long, even telling people during their playthroughs and stuff, yeah, there's certain things you can't show, and Blister Heads was one of those things. But Capcom thought, we're just going to chuck it in the trailer anyway, and I think it ruined the mystery of it a little bit. So I'm disappointed in that, definitely. But having got to see sort of their design, I think they look cool. They remind me a little bit of the clickers from Last of Us, and there's another enemy we'll talk about later on that's a little bit like a bloater, and also the fat molded from RE7. But what you can see with this Blister Head, as they're called, is that he's already mutated. So this is originally a zombie. They mutate and just get, well, basically you get massive blisters on their head, and then you can see their jaw and stuff and their teeth. And they're very licker-like, I will say that. And also, at one point, one thing I didn't capture when I've taken screenshots is the tongue. They've got really long tongues, so I think maybe this is a continuation of a zombie then turning into a licker. If people aren't aware, the Crimson Heads in the lore eventually mutate into lickers. And also in Outbreak File 1, we get that woman who's mutating into a licker. She's going from zombie to licker. So I think this is a similar situation, and the Blister Heads are that sped up, basically. So after they've turned into this, then they would go on to then mutate into a licker, or a more advanced licker. But that's definitely what's happening with the tongue. You know, the tongue's long. You've got the mouth that looks very much like a licker, and then they've got no eyes and stuff like that. So I think this is like adding to the lore, which is a great thing. So that's why I wanted to talk about it. Bit disappointed, you know, they did spoil it, but at the same time, it is interesting to theorize and talk about this enemy. In terms of design, I guess because it resembles a licker, I don't mind it. I do like it. I will say one thing. I think the enemy designs at the moment, from what I've seen, they're okay. I don't like them as much as Nakanishi's previous enemy designs, you know, or at least him signing off on the enemy designs from the art director and the you know, whoever's creating the enemies. So yeah, I think that they're a little bit just mid. That's my personal opinion. We haven't seen everything yet. We haven't seen all of them. There are some that I think are better than others, definitely. The Hag, Chonk's pretty cool. But compared to like the molded, or you know, the ooze from, and the enemy roster in Revelations 1, I just don't find them as appealing. Now, this isn't me hating on the enemy designs. I still think they're good. They're still scary. They're freaky. It's just that compared to previous designs within Nakanishi's Resident Evil games, they're just okay. You know, that's how I feel. I do love where this could take the lore, the fact that these Blister Heads could then turn into lickers, and that's what it's alluding to. I think that's cool. So that's really interesting to me. But I do feel like they're just kind of your stock mutated zombie designs, you know, which makes sense, definitely. It's keeping within a theme. But we've had some really incredible monster designs in previous Resident Evil games, so that's why I'm weighing in on that 100%. Like, and just saying, all right, like, we'll see what else there is, you know. So we haven't seen everything yet, but I think the new zombie designs are awesome. But I'm still yet to be sort of surprised by a design. I've got to be honest, definitely. When creating a new enemy type like the Blister Heads that are clearly a reference to the Lickers and also the Crimson Heads, you know, I am going to be I'm going to be critical, definitely. Not critical to the point where I'm up my own butt, but I'm going to look at it and be like, okay, is this going to shock me, surprise me as much as the Crimson Heads? And I do think the design's awesome, definitely. Like, I think they're cool. But is it doing anything new? You know, when we first saw the Crimson Heads, it was a shock, right? Having said that, we were a lot younger. Well, I was at least when that game came out. So is it more that I've seen so many enemy sort of types in Resident Evil games that now at this point I'm a little bit jaded? I say jaded, I still think the designs are cool, but nothing's actually made me go, wow, you know, like, stop doing what I'm doing and damn, you know. So that's where I'm at. But having said that, I still think they're cool. I just get a little, I think what it is as well is I get a little bit too much of a Last of Us vibe with some of the enemies, you know, and that's, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. To me, it feels like they've been influenced by Last of Us, and so things are starting to look a bit more like clickers or bloaters, you know, just sort of like a more mutated zombie. Having said that, then the Blister Heads do have the tongue and the mouth and stuff, and they do remind me of like a mix of a Crimson Head and a Licker. So like I said, like lore-wise, if then these things start to mutate even more, which is kind of the theme of this, you know, of this game and this game's plot, that these, I say these virus, I don't want to get into too spoilery territory. We are going to talk about it, but the theme of the game is that a certain virus, the T virus, has started to mutate within Raccoon City survivors, yeah, and it's obviously laid dormant, and now it's kicking off basically within their bodies, and it's killing some of them or it's mutating some of them, and so that's the theme of this game. And so these Blister Heads, to me, they're clearly on the way to becoming a fully fledged Licker. So yeah, like that's cool. That's a big thing for the lore, definitely, and for the Resident Evil series. And I have a feeling that we're going to see them mutate more and evolve into a Licker. So I'm excited. I will say one thing, like, can we get some hunters? Hopefully this game can give us some hunters, because, you know, we haven't seen them since the RE3 remake, and their designs in that were really cool. So yeah, the Licker is a little bit overused at this point, I'll be honest. But still, that's my thoughts on everything. Hopefully you guys understand. I'm not hating on the enemy designs. I still think they look very, very impressive animation-wise, threat-wise, and just creepy as all hell. The one thing I think that's cool about Chunk, is I call him Chonky Boy, as I keep calling him Chonk because I like to call him Chonky Boy. But yeah, Chunk. Basically, his eyes just spazzing out when Leon like stabs him in the head. So I thought that was awesome. But yeah, we'll have to see. There's going to be some more enemies. Loads more enemies within this game, and I just hope we get something in the line of the Drain Demios, you know, the Brain Suckers, some Hunters, you know, maybe a Mr. X type Tyrant. Just I want more basically. But I won't be, at the same time, I won't be disappointed if, you know, they don't surprise me in the same way that like Resident Evil 2 did back in the day, or Resident Evil Remake, because obviously, you know, being fans of the series, we've played nearly every game, so we've seen everything we can see up to a point. So yeah, but enemy designs, they're cool, and the Blister Heads, not bad. So moving on, we have a image of Victor Gideon, and it looks like Leon is standing next to him, in front of him, and I'm thinking that maybe this is where they meet, I'm guessing. But yeah, Victor changes his appearance quite a lot. I mean, I think this is Leon. Just double checking. Yeah, it is. So yeah, he changes his appearance quite a bit, which is weird. Although having said that, I guess his face, the bottom half of his face, does resemble him. But he's got this like this snakeskin jacket on, which fits Gideon's theme because he has sort of snake scales on his arm, and it seems like he's gonna obviously mutate into something that's sort of snake-like. So yeah, that was cool. Getting to see that and seeing the theme of Gideon like expressed more was interesting. But he looks skinnier. That's what's thrown me off in this image compared to when he's chasing Grace around, where he just looks buffed out. You know, he's massive. But some people have said that he's actually quite a intimidating foe, and he can actually take on Leon in the same way that, who was it? I can't remember. It wasn't Jack Krauser or Wesker. It was someone else. They mentioned another character, and it's, for the life of me, it's disappeared. But yeah, the development team, as well as like Nakanishi, mentioned another character that he is similar to, where he is a hulking sort of bad guy, and he can take Leon on hand to hand. You know, he's not an Irving basically. So yeah, But yeah, cool character. I like Gideon. Found out as well recently that he's inspired by Buffalo Bill out of Silence of the Lambs, and obviously Grace being an FBI agent and stuff. She's like Clarice Starling. So yeah, I love that. He's got the goggles just like Buffalo Bill, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre as well as Evil Dead. You know, especially the Evil Dead remake were huge influences on Resident Evil 7, and that's why I love that game so much. So yeah, you know, in this one it's Silence of the Lambs, so I love that. I love that Nakanishi is bringing more sort of horror inspiration, not just zombie films or, you know, inspiration from like the Terminator or The Thing, which are all favourite movies of mine, but he's also bringing in elements and inspiration from Silence of the Lambs or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Evil Dead. And yeah, I like that. And the fact that the Chronic Care Centre is going to have a little bit of dark comedy to it, a bit like Village actually, which had quite a bit of dark comedy, you know, laced throughout that game. In the Chronic Care Centre, there's going to be some really sort of dark comedic moments taking place. So that's very Evil Dead to me. So I'm all for that, as long as they don't go too overboard, you know, keep it level. So the next image is of a very, very quick succession of quick shots, and this is of like a hallway, and it's obviously a medical facility. I think maybe this might be the new lab that we get to visit. Definitely, there's obviously clearly another nest that was under Raccoon City that we didn't see, and in this game we're going to get to see that. It's also worth noting that during the trailer it's mentioned that Leon and Grace are off to Raccoon City to, this is a bit confusing, but to go and find a T-virus researcher. So yeah, the T-virus is obviously playing quite a big role in the creation of Elpis. They're gonna go and find this researcher. Is the researcher dead? Is it sort of like his notes and stuff like that we have to find? Who knows? Like, is he alive and they need to rescue him? Who knows at this point? It doesn't go into detail about that, but that's essentially why they're going to Raccoon City. And it is stated during the trailer that it's clearly the T-virus that's within these raccoon survivors' bodies. It's been dormant, you know, and now it's mutated and it's finally active, and it's ended up killing these 6 survivors. And also it's stated that, like I said in my previous video, that Alyssa isn't counted in that death toll because she wasn't killed by the virus. She was killed by Gideon, you know, because Gideon is the guy in the Renwood Hotel that kills Alyssa. So yeah, these other 6 survivors, hasn't been said who they are, so I don't know that information right now. But yeah, very interesting. We then get another sort of scene where it seems like it's a flashback, and it's like 3, I'm guessing, Umbrella scientists working on someone. Who that is, who knows? Maybe that's Gideon, I don't know. But yeah, interesting, intriguing. We're getting a lot of flashbacks, definitely. We then get a shot of, I'm thinking, like a lot of other people have said about this, being either an Umbrella sort of coffin, like cryo chamber thing, or it could be a plinth with just the Umbrella logo on it, which is what I originally thought, but I'm leaning more towards it being this cryo chamber. Who's in there? Who knows? My guess is, this is a theory, and it's an out there theory. My guess is that it's Spencer. I think it could be Spencer. And when he got his when he got a fist punch through his chest, he had instructions that people recover his body, you know. And I'm guessing maybe he's in this cryo chamber and he can be brought back to life, a bit like Dracula, which would be in line with the themes of Village, funnily enough, but in its own way, in a different way. I'm not saying Village's story or its themes are going to find its way into this game, but definitely like Dracula resurrecting and stuff, Spencer being Dracula in this scenario. I wouldn't put it past him, definitely, to throw that in there. The next image is a really, really good one, and I've watched a lot of videos including Project Wesker, you know, and he said that he reckons these children are Wesker children. They're clearly messed up in some way, because they, as you can see, they've all got sort of red eyes, and they're all bald, and they've got stitches around the tops of their heads, which means someone's been working on their brains. So this game is pretty dark. It doesn't really care in this game. They're going for it we've got like these just messed up kids, and they are possibly the scariest and also the most interesting things during this trailer, I would say. I'm not going to say enemies, because we don't know if we're going to fight a more grown-up version of these things, or who even these children are. But they've got these red eyes, and Wesker had red eyes, and I have a feeling, much like Project Wesker has said, that they could be Wesker children. They're either Wesker children from back in the day that Umbrella had, you know, in this nest facility, or they're a new version of Wesker children, maybe. But yeah, very, very creepy. They're maybe the creepiest things that I saw. And then behind them, there is a doctor, definitely, but one of the kids is covering the doctor, so who knows who that is. But yeah, really, really interesting, this image. This is maybe the most interesting image that I've been able to capture, and one of the most interesting shots that got played during the trailer. But yeah, super creepy. Got a little bit of a Regenerator vibe going on, the red eyes and the pale skin and stuff. I know, very, very different from a Regenerator, but yeah, that's kind of the vibe I got from him. So really cool. The next screenshot is of just like an entrance that's locked. It gives me Resident Evil, like the first Resident Evil movie vibes. In the laser hallway, it's a bit like that, where the door is sort of heavy duty locked and they have to hack it to open it. I'm kind of getting that vibe from it. But then on each side of this hall, you have these holograms, you know, or what I think is holograms. They look like holograms. So obviously behind this door there's something heavily guarded. That's the vibe it's given off, and it looks like it's got kind of like a biometric lock and things like that. So yeah, very, very cool. A very futuristic looking, you know, lab type door, which we expect in Resident Evil games up to this point. So yeah, pretty cool. That's all we can talk about, really. Other than that, I don't know nothing else. And then the next shot we can look at is this kind of huge orb that's got something contained within it. Is this Elpis? Is this a machine that can bring people back to life somehow, like Spencer? Who knows what this is? Is it just a massive core that's about to explode? A bit like we see during the Resident Evil 2 remake, you know, and the huge cylindrical cores that are exploding as you're running through the facility trying to reach the elevator and escape. Is it a similar thing with this? I don't think so, because it seems like there's only one of these. It could be the core to the facility, maybe. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it is. I think this is used for something else, definitely, for experiments and things like that. So we'll get to know once the game's released and we get to play through it. And then we get another interesting shot, much like the kids that I believe maybe are the Wesker children, and it's of this team that look very much like the Wolfhound Squad that Project Wesker also spoke about. I initially thought that this might be like a Hunk style team, you know. So I'm up in the air. It's hard to kind of tell who this squad would belong to. If it is the Wolfhound Squad, apparently Chris Redfield isn't in this game, so that's been confirmed. So it'd be them working without Chris, you know. Maybe it's not his initial. How many was there? Like 5, I think, in Village. It's like 5 members or something, weren't there? With him, it was like 6, I believe. Anyway, or with him, it's 5, something like that. But yeah, it might not be the core team. It might be, you know, that these are other soldiers within the Wolfhound Squad. Who knows? But yeah, or it could be that it's a Hunk team, and Hunk's in this game. We do get that voice at the end of the live action trailer that people have thought maybe is Hunk. So we'll have to see. And then we get what looks like, some people have said it's a clock with like an umbrella logo. I'm gonna probably, I don't know, come up with one of the craziest theories you guys maybe have heard and that people haven't said in their videos. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, and you can laugh at this theory, but I had a theory that this is maybe like a pregnancy test. Yeah. Weird, right? It's like sort of in the trailer, it's rotating, it's spinning, and I just have this weird feeling that it's like a pregnancy test, an umbrella pregnancy test, and it ties into something within the story and the plot. And that's my theory. So yeah, it's pretty much out there. Either that or it's an injector. So it's either one of those two things. But I think it being a clock hand, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it would be. But yeah, I have a weird feeling this is a pregnancy test. Just because there's a theme of like, you know, motherhood and a female protagonist, as well as these supposed Wesker children. There's all these themes, so I wouldn't, you know, when you start thinking like that, I wouldn't put it past them to show this kind of like fucked up umbrella pregnancy test injector thing. That's what I think it is. Like, so yeah. Could be wrong, right, we'll have to see. The next shot is we get of, I said earlier we were going to speak about it, is of this sort of large mini boss style enemy, and it's a little bit like the fat molded or a bloater out of Last of Us. So yeah, we get to see his feet, and don't worry, we are going to actually get to see a bit more of him. But the next shot is a really cool one actually. It's clear the Rhodes Hill Chronic Care Centre is like basically destroyed. It's definitely seen better days, and it's been revealed that Gideon is the one that destroys the helicopter somehow. So I actually called that in my last video. I said that Gideon would be the one to, or might be the one to destroy the helicopter in a very sort of like Nemesis sort of callback style of thing. With the helicopter coming to rescue Grace and Leon, you know, as Leon's probably called for evac, and Gideon scuppers those plans, he destroys the helicopter. And that's when we see Leon sniping zombies and trying to get Grace from one end of the courtyard to the other during the Switch 2 trailer. But yeah, it's really cool. It's definitely a callback, definitely to Nemesis, the original Nemesis. For those of you not aware, in the original Nemesis, a helicopter comes to rescue Chris and Carlos at the clock tower, which was deleted out of the Resident Evil 3 remake, which I will never understand. I don't understand why they did that. But anyway, one of the best areas in a Resident Evil game, in my opinion. And this helicopter comes to rescue Jill and Carlos, and the Nemesis fucks up their plans by firing a rocket and destroying the helicopter, and then it hits the clock tower and destroys some of it. So yeah, basically that's a huge callback, a massive callback, and I love that. So yeah, we haven't seen it yet, but I'm pretty sure that was the intention. So still talking about this image, Leon raises a fire axe, and a zombie's got a fire axe, and he chucks it straight at the zombie, killing it. And I just, you know, I was thinking, dude's a fucking G at this point. You know, we've just had a John Wick game announced. Are we really going to need one? Like, Resident Evil's just giving off John Wick vibes, like, big time. The amount of moves in his arsenal are incredible. Like, he can jump kick zombies, he can, you know, do that John Wick gun carter sort of style, close quarters with his gun. He can throw fire axes at their heads, you know, kill them, dispatch them easily with his hatchet. He can use chainsaws. Like, at this point, he's literally John Rambo, and yeah, and he's taking all these fuckers down. So it's very cool to see, and it just depends on whether you gravitate towards an evolved, more efficient Leon, which we've seen sort of many times, you know, during Resident Evil 4 and then afterwards. This is Leon as a character, as he is now, and the Resident Evil 2 Leon is long gone. Now I will say this, during Village I'd say Ethan Winters was more capable than he was in Resident Evil 7, but he was still an everyman. He was still, you know, he still wasn't going around punching Lycans in the face and doing dodge rolls and shit like that. So I think it's cool to have Leon as he is in this game, because we haven't had I wouldn't say overpowered, but a character that's as efficient as Leon. Chris in Village, he was dispatching, you know, the enemies very easily and punching them in the face and stuff like that, but it's expected. So they've built up like Leon and Chris being these really, really sort of hard-edged, you know, capable warriors at this point. That's what Leon is in this game. He's a warrior, you know. He has earned his stripes, I would say, to become this character, to evolve into this character, and he more than shows that during his trailer. So I don't have an issue with it, you know, because his character's been built up, you know, with many, many sources of Resident Evil media, including the CG films, the games, the comics, etc., etc. So we move on to the next image, and it's of the hag. It's clearly Grace, because it's in first person, and this is where the hag's chasing her, so it would be set within the chronic facility, the chronic care facility. So yeah, not much there to talk about. It's the hag. We've seen her loads of times. She's stalking Grace. And then we get a good look at Leon facing off against this bloater, this fat molded style zombie, and it looks like a bloater from Last of Us. There's definitely a lot of inspiration from Last of Us, and like I said earlier, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Last of Us is cool and all, but it was just the same enemy type done again, and then we had that in Resident Evil 7 with the molded. But in Resident Evil Revelations, there were so many different enemy designs. So I know Nakanishi and his team can kind of come up with varied, array of enemies and designs. Now I will say this is only like the beginning moments of the game, or I guess the first half of the game. So it's cool to have these type of enemies, and then maybe when we get to Raccoon City, it's gonna get crazy. So, but yeah, looking at this zombie here, he has obviously your sort of typical orange blister things that you'd shoot, much like the orange eyeballs on the G mutant and also Birkin when he's transformed, and that in Resident Evil 2 remake and various other Resident Evil games. So clearly you have to shoot those things. But yeah, you can't really get a good look at his face. It doesn't really have one, but I think it looks more like a Blister Head, but just big, like massive hench basically. So that's what I think is going on there. And Leon, basically, you'll see during the trailer footage, he fires at it and he just blows it to Kingdom Come. Next shot, we get a look at Grace. Not much really to go on, but what I will say is she looks like she's in some sort of industrial location. And during the trailer, we actually get to see her climbing out of this waste disposal kind of thing. And it reminds me of the factory in Resident Evil 3, and also some parts of Resident Evil 2 as well, and the remake where you have to rescue Ada. So yeah, interesting, cool. But she's still wearing her shirt and stuff that she's wearing in the care facility. So I'm guessing it's around there. Maybe they actually go from the care facility to another location within Rhodes Hill, or maybe this is underneath. There was a shot of a prison, and I think Project Wesker, when I watched him go through his breakdown of the trailer, he said that at first, much like I did, he thought it was the RPD prison cells, but it seems like it's actually maybe underneath the Chronic Care Centre, or maybe we get to explore more of Rhodes Hill and it's a police station or something in Rhodes Hill. So yeah, moving on. So this is the good stuff. So they finally showed more of like Raccoon City, and it's Leon arriving in town. Now this is canon to the Resident Evil 2 remake and not the original Resident Evil 2, because what we see here in this image is where him and Claire Redfield drive into the city, and it's shot for shot essentially like that. And he gets out of his car and he says, "Oh yeah, back here," do you know what I mean? And then we get a better look with him out of his car and sort of looking at the same part of Raccoon City that him and Claire arrived in the remake of 2. So it's a great callback, and I love that. And then we get a really good reveal of Sherry Birkin. So it is Sherry Birkin. She is in this game. Some people said, oh, it could be Ashley. It's not Ashley, it's Sherry Birkin. 100% Sherry Birkin. She's got this really cool shirt on as well. I don't know what that design is on the collar, but I fucking love it. And yeah, and then she's got gloves on, and that actually makes me wonder if she's got gloves on, much like Leon, and she's a Raccoon City survivor. Does that mean that she's got the curse, the Umbrella Curse as well? That's what it's being called, is the Umbrella Curse. So maybe she's infected as well, and underneath the gloves you've got that, whatever that mark that appears that we see during the trailer that Leon has on his hands. So maybe the survivors are like Leon, Sherry, Claire, like everybody that survived. Chris, and they've all, time's running out. They've all got it as well, the Umbrella Curse, and if he doesn't find a cure, they're all dead. So the stakes would be quite high if that's the case. The 6 sort of Raccoon City survivors, maybe they are the Outbreak cast, or some of the Outbreak cast, not including Alyssa. And and the virus got them basically. And now the stronger sort of characters, like Sherry, Leon, etc., Claire, Rebecca, yeah, they're fighting it off, but it could take him over, or it could kill him. Either one. So I mean, they've done this in Vendetta. They did it in Death Island. You know, they've done it in Resident Evil 4. At this point, it is a bit of a trope, definitely. Like our main cast getting infected and having to be saved. But yeah, it's all part and parcel of it being Resident Evil. So even though it's tropey, it's within, you know, within Resident Evil kind of canon for this to sort of happen. But if they're all infected at the same time they're about to die, that's interesting. Like, that's cool. So I love that we're getting Sherry back. I think that's really, really cool. And we haven't seen her since 6. And I'm excited to see her, to see more of her. The next shot is Leon outside the Raccoon City Police Department's main gates, or main doors, and it is basically following on from the remake of 2, which is cool. Obviously, that's an obvious thing. They're going to follow on from the remakes as opposed to the older games, because, you know, we're in a newer generation of Resident Evil. So yeah, so iconic, still very iconic. We get a look at the RPD lobby, and it's definitely seen better days. It's looking a lot worse for wear, but when I say nostalgia was hitting when I saw that, and just sort of like the feelings I was getting from seeing the RPD and returning there as Leon was, yeah, awesome. It was very, very cool, and I cannot wait to see what other locations we get to explore. My mind is racing. I'm like, do we actually get the clock tower? They didn't, you know, do we get to go into the clock tower? Even though they didn't sort of, you know, have that in the remake of 3, but this time, even though we saw it and fought the Nemesis in the courtyard, this time could we actually go in and explore it? Like, would Capcom do that as a sorry for not including it in the remake of 3? But yeah, like, would we get to explore the factory from the older games, even though this is a different continuity, you know, and timeline, canon wise? Like, would we get like a callback to the factory from the original Resident Evil 3 remake, you know? But sort of like, it would be the first time that anyone's explored it. There's so many possibilities. What are the enemies going to be like in an irradiated Raccoon City, you know? Much like Chernobyl, have they mutated even more? They've had to, in order to survive this desolate wasteland, like, essentially, you know, it's a desolate wasteland of a city. Have they become more ferocious? Have they mutated more? Who knows? Very, very cool. So I'm excited. And then we get a great heroic shot of Leon before the trailer ends. So there was a lot to unpack during this latest trailer, and I'll be honest, like, from a personal standpoint, I wasn't expecting it, so I was a bit like, it's caught me off guard, so tomorrow I've got to talk about it, I've got to make a video, and I've got to go in depth. But I think the thing that really bugged me is the fact that it was so revealing. So I was like, there's so many things in this trailer that I have to go through and I have to remember to talk about, and I've probably done such a shit job at doing that. Let me know if I've done a shit job or a good job, please, in the comment section. But that's opening up some doors I don't want to open, because yeah, just be people trolling, like. But yeah, no, honestly, like, that was it. Really, it was just like, it was too much for my brain to handle at like 9:45 at night, and I've just come home from work and they've just shadow dropped this amazing trailer and it's got all this stuff in it, and I'm like, oh mate, like, it was too much for my brain to take in. Where I was just sitting there watching it, like, I didn't even know this was going to drop. Like, maybe I'm out of the loop, maybe people knew this was going to drop, I didn't. I generally thought they'd revealed all they wanted to of the game, you know, until it releases, and we'd had like so many trailers, so we had loads of trailers. Like, it's got to that Metal Gear stage, that Metal Gear level of releasing trailers. But yeah, it was a great trailer. Having said that, it was a great trailer. Like, I really enjoyed it. Is it the best trailer? I still think that the Leon reveal trailer is the best one, but I did like that one. Yeah, it really went into sort of like the mystery stuff, which, you know, obviously a lot of us find interesting, but it didn't reveal too much. So slightly spoilery, but not too much to the point where it had me disappointed, you know. Like I said, I was just mainly disappointed they revealed the blister heads. That was it, really, and yeah, I think that's it, to be honest. They didn't really reveal too much gameplay-wise in the Raccoon City segments. But overall, I love the music, the way the trailer was shot, how good this game looks, the action scenes with Leon, the tense, sneaky kind of survival horror scenes with Grace, the quick shots of these mysterious sort of plot points and things going on, and like a little reveal of maybe what the nest looks like. Yeah, it was cool. It was really cool. I mean, I can't really remember what Gideon is saying during the trailer. All I remember is there's the Umbrella curse. All the Raccoon City survivors now suffer from it. You know, it's basically the T virus laying dormant in their bodies, and then it's activated now. Whether Gideon is the one to activate it, who knows? Is Spencer in the game? Is he going to be the big reveal? You know, the plot twist. Like I've spoke about this in previous videos, this isn't something that's new. My theory is that he is going to be in the game. That's my theory, and he is going to be the big reveal, the plot twist. Because a lot of people never got to actually meet Spencer as any of the protagonists. He was dead by the time Chris and Jill, you know, got to him and Wesker, and so a lot of people I think felt cheated, being that he's like the main villain of a lot of the older Resident Evil games, you know, and he died before we could have like a monologue with him or anything like that. So yeah, a lot of people did feel kind of cheated, I will say that, and maybe this is their apology for that. And so I do think Spencer's going to be in the game, definitely. And also it would tie into 8 anyway, where it's revealed that he, you know, he met Miranda and he got the ideas from the village to create Umbrella, and the sign that's in the village is the sign that he used for Umbrella. So it's of the Four Lords, you know. So it's interesting. Like I do think, and I have that theory that yeah, I think Spencer's going to be in the game, definitely. Like obviously I watched Project Wesker's video after I'd seen the trailer, because I wanted to hear someone's take on it, you know, and break it down, and that. And I kind of respect him quite a lot with his breakdowns, and some of the things, like, yeah, lead to maybe even Alex Wesker being in this game. So I think Alfred's dead. Albert, my bad. I'm thinking of Alfred Ashford. Yeah, Albert Wesker's dead, right? That's what they've said. Capcom have said Albert's gone. He's dead, right? So Alex Wesker's consciousness is still in Natalia. And they never finished that off. They never continued that. So maybe this is going to tell that story. Because I don't think that Gideon is the only antagonist in this game. I think there's a few. So maybe with Spencer and then with Alex, we've got three antagonists. And seeing as from Resident Evil 4 to Village, there's been multiple antagonists. We've had Sadler, we've had Krauser, we've had Ramon Salazar. You know, in 7 we had the Bakers. In Village we had Moreau and Heisenberg, Lady D, Miranda. You know, Buenavito. We've had multiple antagonists in sort of the more current Resident Evil games, and so I think that this game's going to have a few antagonists as well. That's my theory. Alex Wesker being in the game, like, why do I think she could be in the game? Because we'd have another Wesker. It would tie off the plot from Revelations 2. You know, and maybe it's a grown-up Natalia, but with Alex Wesker's consciousness in her. I know this is getting a bit too crazy, and it's going into that Village Revelations 2 territory. But, you know, at the end of the day, if it's done in a clever way, it ties off the plot points, right? So, you know, I do want to get closure on that, along with everybody else. Even if I did think it was straying a bit too far away from, you know, what I was used to from previous Resident Evil games, and the lore and the plot of those, which I prefer more. But we're getting away from the point. The point is that, yeah, I still want to see that explained, and to have another Wesker, if it's Alex, come back, because we don't actually get too much of an interaction with her, you know, as a human. Like, it's more when she's mutated. Yeah, just to have another Wesker, it be Alex, and her trying to revive, along with Gideon, revive Spencer, is an interesting plot point. I can get behind that. I like that. And also, apparently her voice actress, I think, was in the live action trailer. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but Project Wesker was saying something about they wouldn't bring back her voice actress, have her in a live action trailer, if there was no connection there, you know, and Alex Wesker wasn't in this game. So yeah, I got behind that fully and thought, yeah, that's true. So yeah, maybe Alex Wesker's in this. Who knows? And I think Nakanishi's the person to actually handle that. You know, that's why I have faith, because I think he's the person to handle that sort of stuff and give closure to Revelations 2's hanging, you know, plot point. Also, maybe even Revelations 1, because we have that stinger at the end, so maybe that could be tied off. I think maybe if there's going to be a game that does that, it's going to be this one. We'll just have to wait and see. But overall, great trailer. I think they should stop now, you know, because this was quite revealing. So I think they should stop now. Like, that's it until release, and let's get our hands on the game when we can play it. But if you've enjoyed my breakdown and also stuck with me and had fun with me following Resident Evil Requiem, then go ahead and leave me a like, and if you can, share the video on your socials. I'm going to be doing the same. Just get my name out there a little bit, and yeah, and get my videos out there, because I'm a huge fan of this series, and I like talking about Resident Evil. So even though last night I was absolutely shattered from work, I wanted to make a video there and then and talk about Resident Evil. I thought, leave it for tomorrow. You can get your head clear, watch the trailer again and go through it all. I think it's whet my appetite enough for me to want to get my hands on the game now, and I know they're out in the wild at the moment. So, I don't know, maybe I'll try and get my hands on a copy. Who knows? At the moment though, you know, game is shutting down in the UK. So yeah, I mean, the only places really that are going to have it are going to be online sellers. And I doubt Amazon and the rest of them are going to release it early. So yeah, it's it's maybe one of those situations where I have to wait for it until it's released. But we ain't got that long. We've got till the 27th. It's not that long to go. So I'm excited. I know you guys are excited. If anything else does come out and drops, I'll keep you guys updated, definitely, and cover it on my channel. I just hope that it doesn't, so that now, you know, we can get our hands on the game and finally play it and enjoy it. But great marketing, great promotion from Capcom during this whole thing. Yeah, I thought they handled it brilliantly. Even with all the leakers and people trying to spoil it, it didn't sort of deter them, you know, to completely spoil it anyway. They still stuck to their guns, and they revealed bit by bit, you know, and they had their strategy and they stuck to it. So hats off to Capcom. Commend you for doing that, and it's been a great journey. But now I just want to play the game like everybody else. So 27th can't come sooner, and I will be giving you guys my review of the game when it does drop and when I finally got through it. So until next time, I've been System Check 66. Have a great rest of your week. I'm out of here. Peace.